You ever notice how silence makes people uncomfortable? That when a man doesn't explain himself, they start inventing stories about him? That's the life of a Sigma male, misunderstood, misread, and mislabeled, not because he tries to be mysterious, but because he refuses to play along with the noise. He walks into rooms where everyone's performing, and the moment he doesn't join in, someone whispers, "What's his problem?" The truth? He doesn't have one. The problem is theirs. The Sigma simply stopped needing validation to breathe. He doesn't hate people. He just can't stand pretense. He doesn't isolate because he's bitter. He isolates because peace has become rarer than people who mean what they say. The quieter you become, the louder everyone else's nonsense sounds. Being a Sigma isn't about rebellion. It's about outgrowing the performance everyone else is still addicted to. It's about seeing through the scripts people live by the fake smiles, the forced laughs, the social charades, and realizing you don't have the patience to pretend anymore. But the price of that clarity is steep. You stop belonging. You stop being invited to things you never wanted to attend in the first place. You become different, intense, cold, or worse, arrogant. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. He didn't reject the world rejected his refusal to fake it. Here are 8 brutally real, annoying things. Only Sigma men can understand the things that make him seem distant, but also make him unshakable. 1. Small talk feels like suffocating in a room full of open mouths and empty minds. Most people can sit through small talk without dying inside. The Sigma can't. When conversations revolve around recycled gossip, fake humility, or half-hearted debates about nothing, he checks out mentally or physically. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. He can feel when words are filler, when people speak just to avoid silence, when laughter is fake and approval is currency. He doesn't do weather talk or how's work. He does depth or he does nothing. To most, that makes him antisocial. But for him, fake connection drains more energy than solitude ever could. He'd rather be alone with his thoughts than surrounded by noise that means nothing. If the conversation doesn't challenge your mind, it's not a conversation, it's an echo chamber. 2. He can see manipulation coming before the first sentence ends. The Sigma reads people the way others read headlines. Tone, posture, word choice, he notices everything. When someone tries to steer the conversation subtly, drop guilt, or manipulate with charm, he clocks it instantly. That's the curse of awareness. You can't unsee people's games. So while others get drawn in, he withdraws. Not because he's paranoid, but because he values his peace more than winning psychological tug-of-war. And that drives manipulators insane. You can't bait a man who doesn't need your approval. You can't guilt-trip someone who's already walked away emotionally before you started speaking. The Sigma's radar is sharp because he's lived through betrayal, watched masks slip, and learned that silence exposes character faster than words ever could. Once you see the game, you lose the ability to play it. 3. He's surrounded by people who confuse his calm with weakness. The Sigma doesn't react. He analyzes. He doesn't argue. He observes. And that infuriates people who feed off emotional reactions. They call him cold because he doesn't rise to their bait. They call him detached because he doesn't perform outrage on command. But here's the thing, calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. The Sigma doesn't lose his temper because he's already calculated the cost of chaos. He knows that anger makes you predictable, and predictability is weakness in any arena. So he lets people misjudge him, he lets them talk. Because while they're busy reacting, he's planning 3 moves ahead. A man who controls himself controls everyone trying to control him. 4. He gets punished for not playing the victim. In a culture that rewards loud suffering, the Sigma's quiet endurance confuses people. He doesn't post about his struggles, doesn't ask for sympathy, doesn't perform pain for validation. But instead of admiration, he gets resentment. People think he's emotionless or arrogant because he doesn't advertise his wounds. In reality, he just understands something they don't. The world doesn't care how loudly you bleed. It only respects who stands up without crying about it. He doesn't see strength as something to display, he sees it as something to maintain. And that offends those who need attention to feel alive. So they label him cold, not realizing it's discipline, not distance. Real strength is quiet. Weakness is loud because it needs witnesses. 5. He's constantly misunderstood. Because he speaks in actions, not explanations. Most people overshare to prove themselves. The Sigma undershares to protect himself. He doesn't explain why he's distant. He doesn't justify his moves. And that lack of explanation makes people uncomfortable. They assume silence means guilt, arrogance, or disinterest. But for him, silence is strategy. He learned that the moment you start explaining yourself, you hand people a map to your vulnerabilities. So he lets them wonder, because confusion is armor, and he's not obligated to be readable. His consistency will tell the truth over time. Words are cheap. Actions compound. A lion doesn't explain his roar to sheep. 6. People think he's replacing them when he's actually replacing peace. The Sigma male has a quiet habit of disappearing when things turn chaotic. He doesn't argue. He doesn't announce his exit. He just vanishes. And the people he leaves behind take it personally as if his peace was an insult. But he's not replacing them with other people. He's replacing them with silence. He's learned that sometimes the only way to protect your sanity is to subtract noise disguised as relationships. When people realize he's not coming back, they call him heartless. But he's not being cruel, he's being honest about his capacity. He doesn't owe anyone his mental bandwidth, especially those who keep draining it. You're not leaving them behind, you're leaving behind who you had to be around them. 7. His independence makes others feel irrelevant. The Sigma's independence doesn't threaten people because of what he does, it threatens them because of what it reveals. He shows them how dependent they actually are. He doesn't need constant validation, reassurance, or social glue to feel grounded. That terrifies people who've built their entire self-worth on being needed or liked. They'll call him selfish, cold, or emotionally unavailable. But what they're really saying is, you don't need me to feel complete and I can't handle that. He's not detached, he's self-sustaining. He's not heartless, he just doesn't trade independence for comfort. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty. Dependency feels like love until someone shows you freedom. 8. He can't turn off awareness, even when he wants to. The most exhausting part of being a Sigma isn't isolation, it's awareness. He sees too much, feels too much, understands too deeply. He notices the cracks in conversations, the inconsistencies in people, the lies they tell themselves just to get through the day. He wants to unsee it sometimes, to live simpler, lighter, dumber. But once you see through illusions, you can't go back to believing them. That awareness becomes both armor and burden. It's why he isolates, why he stays quiet, why he looks detached. Because awareness, when unshared, becomes heavy. But he carries it anyway, not because he wants to, but because he must. The curse of seeing everything clearly is knowing when to stay silent. On a final note, being a Sigma isn't about mystery or rebellion, it's about clarity. It's realizing that most of the world runs on noise. And the moment you stop needing it, you become an outcast by default. The Sigma doesn't hate people. He just can't fake connection where there's none. He doesn't walk alone because he's broken. He walks alone because he refuses to dilute himself to fit into crowds that reward conformity. He's not special. He's just finished pretending. And that's the one thing people can't forgive when a man stops needing them to feel whole. The loneliest men aren't the ones no one understands. They're the ones who stop needing to be understood.